So firstly, you spent most of your career at Hilton. What was your biggest lesson or your greatest challenge from your time there?
Yeah, I spent 24 years of my career in Hilton, so it's a very long time. There are many lessons. One of them is certainly, I've moved in these 24 years some 10 times and had to always adapt to cultures. And I think what I learned along those experiences that you always need to adapt to local cultures. And actually what I really learned is that locals know best. So even within Europe, or then if you go to Middle East and Africa, it's always the local who knows best, and one shouldn't assume that you know it better just because you're an executive. So I would think that's the greatest lesson. In terms of challenge, because you asked for that, along the road, many also, but probably the one which sticks out the most is when I was appointed first-time general manager. At the time, I was 34 years old, I was the youngest GM in Hilton. Today, with 34 years, you're certainly no longer the youngest GM, but at the time I was, and I was appointed to the Paris Hilton. And that was an established hotel where only old general managers had previously been in charge. And that for me was a heck of a challenge to take over as a young GM, prove yourself with the unions in France, refurbish the hotel. So that sticks out among those.
Well, that must have been quite a challenge, and the team took to you, the young Austrian at the helm.
Yeah, it took some time, the Austrian with the speaking French with the Austrian accent, and coming after what was only vice presidents and senior people, but it's always about working with people and through people, and at the end of the day, you have to gain their trust, and that's what I did. So yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Then after Hilton, you went on to become chief executive of the Radisson Hotel Group. That must have been quite an exciting time of growth for the company. What was it like leading that team and that brand as it grew?
Look, Mitch, I took over from a legend. Kurt Ritter was CEO of that company and created it for 21 years. So he created a culture. He created this fast-paced development track record. And I took over from him, and I had to keep that culture flowing, yet adapt it, keep the growth momentum going. But most importantly, I had to turn the company profitable, because for the past 5 years, it lost money. So doing all that in the combination of what I mentioned before was challenging, was rewarding, but most importantly, the best was creating a team which made the challenge happen. And we had lots of fun in the process.
It's funny how the commercial success of something is so important to its sustainability. And if anything, the pandemic, I find, has taught us that it's just tested our values and our ethics in terms of where to put money and what to do and make sure that you survive.
Yeah.
Anyway,
look, sustainable profits is what it's all about. Anybody can make a quick buck, right? That's easy. But to create a company and maintain a company at the level where you are creating sustainable profits, but also have sustainable business practices for the benefit of all stakeholders, not just the shareholders. That's the challenge for an executive. And I think that was exactly the challenge for me when I took over at Radisson. And yeah, worked very well.
Were you able to keep the pace on the development as fast as it was?
Yeah, we did. We adapted it a little bit, Mitch, because we became a little bit more selective. Before it was growth for growth, and then we introduced a more rigorous screening process to really make sure that the properties that we signed did not only just add to the flags to the company, but actually we were sure that in stabilized year 3, at least, they would turn a profit.
Got you. Let's shift that segues nicely into Africa. Did that include some properties in Africa, or what was your exposure like to Africa and I guess East Africa in particular with both Hilton and Radisson?
Look, started with Hilton when I was President Europe and Africa. I was in 2005. I remember that very well. It was my first trip to Africa when I familiarized myself with at the time, relative small estate of Hilton in Africa. I think we had some 20 properties in Hilton at the time.
Relatively small.
Sorry?
Relatively small.
Relatively small. Well, if you compare this to what Radisson later on had, yeah. But I remember my first trip was to Nairobi, actually, to the legendary Hilton Nairobi, which is still a legend, right?
Sure.
And then I went on to Johannesburg, where we had a new property. And for me, it was just discovering the African continent, which intrigued me from the very beginning. And what I learned very quickly is that Africa is not Africa. Africa is 54 different countries. Every country is different. Every country has a different heritage, history. And back to what I said before, it's about locals, right? And understanding this difference between the countries, yet appreciating this African spirit, the African hospitality. That, yeah, I fell in love with the continent very quickly. I mean, I think I mentioned to you that I climbed Kilimanjaro in 2014, and I had an amazing experience in Rwanda when we opened the Radisson there. Went to see the gorillas, and it doesn't matter where I went in Africa, I was always intrigued by two things: one, the people, and two, the nature. So that's really what sticks out. And you know, hospitality in Africa is unique. Is people care, people love their job, and I think we have such an opportunity in the hospitality sector, as you do in Angama, right? You bring these people with you, you educate them, you give them responsibilities, you give them not only a job, but a purpose, and they love it, and they give with so much warmth and look, hospitality is all about creating experiences, right? I think nowhere else in the world are experiences created as in Africa. And I'm not talking about the wildlife safari experience. I mean, that is anyway unique. But just the experience of how you're welcomed in a hotel in Africa, how people interact with you, they're proud, it's unique.
It's good to hear it from a non-African, I must say, because we come about things from an African perspective, often looking out and then welcoming, in many instances, international guests. So it's what I love about your perspective is it's looking at Africa with a industry-wide lens on, but evaluating Africa and I guess the strength of Africans, never mind the wildlife and the places, against some of our global peers. Let's say we're not competitors, but it's understanding how Africa fits in within the global travel space and where guests choose to go to. So that's
And the African continent has so much potential. So much potential. It's untapped. But with that potential comes an enormous responsibility for the hospitality sector to not just grow and plant hotels left, right, and center. As we go about and open hotels and make it happen and open it for tourists to see that amazing continent and countries, we also need to really live up to our responsibilities to make a difference locally.
Absolutely.
Do what we just talked about in terms of educating people, being active in the local communities, and most importantly, and you know how passionate I am about sustainability, is making a difference to protect the nature, right? And doing sustainable constructions and running the hotels in a sustainable way.
You're absolutely right. And that also starts with having a good business, which encourages investors, and you can pay people properly and train people well and invest in your team and all of the rest that follows.
It's what I call, Mitch, responsible leadership. Responsible leadership in terms of making a difference for all stakeholders, right? It's like we said, the shareholders, but it's the employees, it's the suppliers, it's the local community, it's all your business partners. It's across the whole spectrum, right? And if we do that, there is no other business than ours where you can have such a fantastic experience and genuinely feel that you make a difference.
And give people holidays and honeymoons and trips of a lifetime to start with, which is also what drives me. Volker, I've been reading Danny Meyer of Union Square Hospitality's book lately. I'm sure you know of his group, based out of New York. The book's called Setting the Table, and there was one chapter that really resonated with me, and the title was The Road to Success is Paved with Mistakes Well Handled. And I thought that was a really interesting and positive and uplifting way at looking at failures, because we've all made mistakes, and really it's how you learn from those mistakes and deal with them, which is what positions you and drives you to the next. Would you like to share any of yours of your career, maybe a funny story from some, or any mistakes or conversations like that?
Look, my philosophy is life is a journey and life is a learning experience. And I've made many, many mistakes. But I look back at my mistakes also and sort of say, I've learned from them, because I think if you don't dare and if you don't have the will to try things out, you're not going to experience new things. You're not really grabbing the opportunities that life or business gives you. So I think you make mistakes, but you reflect on them, and then you get up and go on and do it differently. I mean, if I look back at my career, I would think I've been way too fast-paced. We were just talking about how important it is to connect with locals and see and appreciate what there is. And when I look back at my executive career, I was just running around from one place to the other, catching one plane, the next one, and I didn't slow down and I didn't take enough time to connect with people locally, I think.
Okay.
Appreciate. And equally, I think I didn't balance my life well enough between executive and private, sort of to have more time also with my family. I would think these are sort of my two biggest mistakes. And then there are many business mistakes which I can share over a glass of wine when we sit together, or a beer in overlooking the Mara. But I've been lucky. I've been lucky because I've always been blessed working with great people who helped me see my mistakes, because I was always open to mistakes, getting the feedback and adapting it.
The reflection is an important part of it, isn't it? With self-awareness, eh?
Yeah.
So, Wolfgang, you've hung up your executive boots and you're now focusing on a number of non-executive initiatives, obviously that sit closely to your heart. And other than Angama, I know you're involved at the Hotel School in The Hague and the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, which is a collection of big hospitality operators across the globe. Given the investment of your time, which is always going to be limited to 24 hours a day, what do you look for when you're evaluating opportunities and deciding where to invest your time and effort and expertise? And what do you look for when looking at opportunities?
I consider myself blessed now to be in the second phase of my career, where I can slow down, as we just discussed, and to look at executive opportunities, be it either on board seats or strategic advice. For me, what is important is, most importantly, can I make a difference? Can I actually make a contribution to that company? Because otherwise, I don't want to waste my time. More importantly, I also want to make sure that I share the values with the company and I can respect the people in the company. I don't want to work anymore with people where I really don't believe in their business model, believe in their business practices. I only want to work with people where I share the same philosophy, the same values. And to me, what is important is that I can learn, because we were just talking about life being a learning journey. So I still want to learn. I want to become better and ultimately, make a difference, as I said.
Well, since you've been with us, you're already making a difference. So thank you. I know this is part of the world, getting to know you and getting to know you with Angama, but certainly you've made a big impact already since you've been involved with us. So just to bring it then into Angama's context, just one last question, I guess, as we look ahead and what's in store for this business and this family and this team as we come out of the pandemic. What are you hoping to achieve with Angama if you look back on this engagement 5 years, 10 years, 15 years hence, I guess, in maybe in comparison to some of your other initiatives, or specifically within the African sector and hospitality and ecotourism and the protection of nature? How would you define that, and what are you looking for from this?
Look, Angama is my only African non-executive role, and that in itself makes it already special. And you heard how much I believe in the country, how much I value it. So that's fantastic. And I think you and the team, what you have created there is unique between the Angama property and now the safari camp. It's fantastic. And all what I want to do is help and assist the management team, the executive team, you and Nikki and the whole team to make it even better. And it's already so good. But you know, I'm talking a little bit like the blind of the color, right? Because as a hotelier, I always want to be there first. But all what I've seen and heard, it's an amazing property. And helping you is as an executive team is my number one priority, because I think as a board member, you're there to support the executive team.
Yeah.
Number two, then as a board member, you're also there to do your responsibilities in the board and helping Neville as a chairman and being with my colleagues on the board to help see the strategic opportunities and do our responsibilities from a board perspective. And again, it links back to when you asked me, what do I want to do? I want to make a difference to Angama in terms of my experience as a hotelier, as a travel expert, as a passionate believer in Africa, as somebody who is extremely passionate about sustainability and shared values across all stakeholders, as we said. And that's what I look forward to. So when I look back in 5 years, I hope that Angama will have grown, because I think there's enormous opportunity for Angama to go beyond the current sites, and there is already promising opportunities on the table, and to maintain and that unique culture that Steve created together with Nikki. You know, I watched the other day. I watched the video which you posted about Steve's on YouTube. It grabs you. It goes under your skin what the man did and how he believed in that location. And,
you know, and he foresaw everything, didn't he?
It's amazing. And you know, and I looked at this and say, wow, I'm humbled and I'm proud to be part of that now.
Wolfgang, it's good to have you with us. Thank you for sharing some of your stories. I hope everyone who is watching enjoyed hearing your perspective on business, on travel, on Hilton, on Radisson, and equally on Angama. And we look forward to walking this path together with you and your involvement within the Angama family. So thank you.
So do I, Mitch. Thank you very much.